There we go.
Matt's doing a lot of things. It's like he's making the live happen. How are we doing? Thursday. What are we on? The 12th of October. Right on dot, 6 o'clock. The only place to be. Live TV with Avocado. Got Shona. We got Matt. And we've got Ryan and myself going to cover quite a lot. So let me just give everyone that's joining or watching after we've gone live the lowdown on exactly what we're going to cover this week. So what is the average variable rate that you get at the moment after it's come off of a fixed term mortgage? That's going to scare a few people in a good way. And then we've also got Skipton Mortgage setting the precedent at the moment with an unbelievable low rate that you want to check out. You're going to want to know exactly what that rate is and how you get it. We're going to talk about reservation agreements as well. Cover those off. If you don't know what a reservation agreement is, you will find out in this live chat. Buyer confidence. Where are we at with buyers? What did Rightmove say in September house prices did? And I'm going to talk about not just why they said that, but why it's wrong. And then we're also going to talk about what to do if you want to get moving before Christmas, which I'm excited for as well. So Ryan's had that conversation with a few people. So yeah, if you are watching, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Drop us a like, let us know you can hear us. Don't be shy. Ask us a question while we're chatting. It is, as the banner says, a live Q&A. Ask a question. Nothing is out of bounds. Shona, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Good. How's the week been so far?
Really, really good. I finally had 2 sales agreed on shared ownership. So they take quite a bit of chasing and lots of information from the buyers. But yeah, both buyers perform really well. And yeah, I've got both the OKs in the last 24 hours. So happy days.
Well done. Off the mark. Love that. Absolutely love that. How are you getting on, Matt? You were doing a little dance before we went live, so I guess you're feeling good.
I'm dancing today because I've got the office to my south because my business partner has gone off because his friend's a pilot and was like, I've got some free flights, so I'm going on holiday for a few days. So I'm holding down the fort solo, but I'm all good.
I thought he's just been on holiday. Hasn't he just been in the Maldives or somewhere?
He has, yes.
Well, I'm sure he's watching wherever he is. Obviously, he's always checking in. So, yeah, well, that's a reason to dance. And Ryan, the mascot is over your right shoulder. How is everyone?
I've got a couple of little mascots. There's another little one there. Dog's over there, but you can't see him because of the darkness in the screen. I like the screen vibes. Like there's like a little checkers board, isn't it? You and myself dark here, and then Shona and Matt nice and white. Nice little contrast.
It's almost like we planned it.
It literally is, isn't it? But yeah, we're all good in Tilehurst. It's been a nice week for us actually. We've had a couple of completions, exchange, sale agreed, listing gone live, but it's been quite. I wouldn't say quiet. We've just had one of those like weeks where you haven't got masses in the diary, which is nice, like a catch-up week. But yeah, flat out tomorrow, open house Saturday, take on Sunday. Take on Monday, take on Tuesday. It's going to be a busy week next week. So I'm enjoying like a bit of a chill period, to be honest with you, for a few days.
I thought you'd been busy because you haven't been in touch to do a podcast. I was like,
I know. What? I was thinking about that. I was posting the reels for our podcast. Shameless plug there. Sorry, Ian.
Well, I knew that you were both on actually, and I even wrote a note down here. The Living Room podcast. I even wrote it down knowing that the 2 hosts are there. So. Yeah, if anyone wants to check that out, you've been talking about some cool stuff this week, buyers, offers, things like that as well. I even commented actually, and I said, I've seen you've got a lot of partners on, but I have not had an invite yet, which is...
We did comment back, to be fair. We said, didn't we, Matt?
We did.
It's a bit upsetting.
We're saving that for a special episode, Ian, so don't feel left out. Your time will come.
How many episodes are we in now, chaps?
31.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm 40 this year, so get me on for number 40. That would be spot on.
That's the plan.
There we go.
Let's play a guessing game. If you're watching live, you can have a guess as well. Throw it in the comments. What do you think the average variable rate is the first week of October? And for those that don't know what the variable rate is, if you have got a mortgage, let's say you've got a 25-year term, you do a 3-year fixed. After your 3-year fixed rate comes to an end, you slot onto a variable rate. It's just a month by month rate. And it's always higher than the fixed term. That's very normal. But what do we think the average variable rate is at the start of October? This is not a statistic people just know off the top of their head unless they're really into that sort of stuff. But I came across it because it was in the news this week. So let us know what you think in the comments. It'd be great to hear. Don't be shy. Throw numbers at us. But I'm going to go around the room here as well, get some guesses. If you've watched my video on Instagram or Facebook, you'll know the answer. Anyone in this chat seen that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All of you. Okay.
It's kind of forward your plan there, isn't it?
It's going to ruin the game. But what it does show, if you want to be marketing your property, then we're the place to go because people see our videos. We've got 19% has just been thrown in. Now that would be scary.
Yeah.
That would be scary. Shona, what is the variable rate to the last decimal place?
I believe the calculator said 8.18%.
Bang on the money. Bang on the money. Yeah. So the reason I want to share that is because there is quite a lot of people always coming off their fixed term, but there are fixed rates at the moment that are mid 4% and even one out there at 3%, 3.35 to be precise. So do not let yourself go onto a variable rate. Thousands of people allow it to happen. There are thousands of people sat on variable rates at the moment, but it's going to cost you an arm and a leg in interest. So unless you've got a real logical reason and you're planning a move and you're just in between, don't go on to that variable rate because 8.18% is horribly high, right, Ryan?
Absolutely. It's difficult for sellers, isn't it? Because if you're in a fixed term mortgage and you're looking at selling and you know you're going to switch to that variable rate in January and you're putting your house on the market now, there's a good chance obviously you almost have to cater for that. But at the same time, if you complete early, you're going to have to pay redemption penalties. It's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of thing. But yeah, high rates. And yeah, you don't want to be falling onto those rates. Absolutely not.
I guess we're not mortgage advisors, so we can't give mortgage advice. But what we can say is that we know, typically speaking, Matt, there are options out there for people to do like a 12-month or a 24-month fixed deal where you actually don't pay the redemption penalty. So that might be an option for what Ryan suggested there as well, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think if someone needs that flexibility, looking for a mortgage product which doesn't have a redemption fee or an early repayment charge might be a wise option. I think most people could probably put up with a tracker rate for a month or two, but you don't want to be on 8.18% for very long. So yeah, a shorter term product or something appropriate, which isn't going to sting you if you need to get out of it before the fixed term's up, would be.
No, I've noticed your listening face on these calls. Sometimes you look quite sad, Matt. I've noticed that. When you're listening, when you're really intently listening, sometimes you look quite sad. Or maybe you were just sad about that rate. I don't know.
I was sad about that rate, but I will be happier.
I know you're a happy guy, but you just looked quite sad for a moment there. Talking of happy, so every month we get the reports which show us how many properties Avocado has put live on the portals, and then how many of those properties or how many properties have also gone sold on the portals. And then you can do the calculation to see what percentage you've sold. At the moment, the national average, the South of England average statistic that I've taken is just over 50%. It's like 51.2%. But I just thought I'd share this with everyone because people always ask me, are properties selling? If I'm talking to someone in the gym, they'll go, hello, mate, are properties selling? It's just a standard thing that happens. They're probably not Australian. I don't know why I did that accent. But that's what we're sat at the moment. So September, Ryan, 76% sold.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Stuff selling, right? 3 and 4.
I think what we're finding is we've had a couple of houses we sold in September. As we've always said, as long as you price correctly, market correctly, you're going to sell. But if you market correctly for the market we're in, where buyers are still there, just got to price sensibly. We had one property we listed in September and sold 10 days later. 18 viewings, 9 offers in the middle of a September market where the market's down. Things are still selling, and that's no surprise. to see those sort of statistics. It's all about correct pricing, though, absolutely from the start.
And Shona, you were talking about buyer confidence off camera as well. So obviously you're feeling confident this week because you've got 2 buyers secured on properties. Well done for that. And as you can see here, the rest of the Avocado group, pretty much 3 out of 4 properties are selling. It's been in the 70s, mid 70s for the last 12 months. You know, when things were booming, it was in the 80s. But if things are done right, then there's no reason why buyers shouldn't be confident, right?
Definitely. No, I was saying off camera that I found that it's not just the buyers, it's the sellers as well. They're having confidence that the buyers have confidence in the market. So we're seeing much more activity and much more interest in valuations. So more people looking to do those moves. So you've got confidence coming in from both sides, and you can see it with the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie, do they? It's still a lot of not negative news, it's just random news, I find, Matt. A lot of clickbait-led stuff in the press. I get the Google alerts and I always sort of look at it and then I read the article and I'm like, really? I mean, the latest one, and we've got a podcast, as we're plugging podcasts, we've got an Investors Club podcast going out next Friday on it. But Sky News, this is not like just some Tim Pot kind of little online media outlet. Sky News reported that if you rent a property, the biological aging process is twice as long in comparison to a homeowner. What's your thoughts on that?
What does that even mean? You
get older quicker if you're a tenant compared to a homeowner, basically.
Your stress levels renting and what that does to you biologically.
Yeah.
Mortgage. Yeah. So live longer, buy houses through Avocado property.
I mean, that sums it up quite neatly, but that blew my mind that they were running that article. I think it was the Essex University had done some sort of research into it, and it showed that being a tenant will age you faster than an ex-smoker, is what it said. And I was like, where are we going with this article, Sky? Like, what are we chatting about here? But
scraping the barrel a bit there, aren't they? Not like there's anything else happening in the world to report on, but
yeah, can we throw some negativity out there in some fashion or another? Well, there you go. I mean, it's hard enough being a tenant at the moment. I can understand the stress levels because to find a property is really difficult. But yeah, that one was that was a funny one. Reservation agreements. Let's talk about those, Matt. Do you want to give us a summary on kind of what they are, why people should use them, and how it's changing the confidence for a lot of sellers, you know, that we're working with at the moment?
Yeah. So a reservation agreement is a legal agreement between a buyer and a seller, which is signed at the point a sale is agreed. So when the sale's agreed, you sign a reservation agreement and agree to exchange contracts in a set period of time. Now, this is a new process, and it essentially means the buyer has reserved the property is theirs to buy, and the seller has reserved the property for the buyer. So what it does is it kind of formalizes the handshake agreement, which is made between the buyer and the seller at the start of the transaction. So it means there's no changing the terms 2 months in. There's no, the terms are fixed and the property is reserved. So it gives buyers the certainty that the seller's not going to sell the property to someone else. And it gives sellers the certainty that the buyer is committed to that transaction. Is that a fair summary, would you say?
Any evolution on that, Ryan or Shona?
I think for me, it firms up people's intentions from day one, and it gives both buyer and seller assurances that everyone is on the same side. We're all committed and we're ready to move this transaction through in a timely fashion. I feel, you know, if reservation agreements are brought up, and Matt said they're new, but they're not. The process isn't new. It's just we're just formalizing it now, and I think it's a fantastic thing for not just ourselves as obviously the go-to agent for that in our areas, but as it widens out across the board, I think it's just going to be a massive thing for the industry. So, like, I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's changing a process where things have been set for so long. They're not going to overhaul the purchasing of properties. That's not going to change. But reservation agreements go a long way to making it a lot more certain for people, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, to normalise it for people, Shona, if you book a holiday, you reserve with a deposit. If you buy a car, you put down a deposit. If you lease a car, you put down a deposit. If you rent a property, you put down a holding deposit. If you go to quite a fancy restaurant, you put down a deposit. If you try and book Sunday lunch with more than 8 people, you pay a deposit. If you buy a house and the legal transaction can take up to 4 months, typically speaking, you haven't had to do a deposit. It just seems mental, doesn't it, really?
No, definitely. I can't understand why you wouldn't want to try and secure your transaction from either aspect. Like just that little bit of confidence in both sides, knowing that, you know, you've parted with, I mean, not a substantial amount of money, but just something to sort of show your commitment as a buyer. And the seller is saying, you know, I'm definitely not going to be offering this to anyone else. I know gazundering was quite a topic over the last few weeks, and you know, their buyers are going to be safe in the knowledge that they've secured the property. Both sides, we're secure, we're going to go through. Yeah. And like you say, you put a deposit down, you're going to go through to the end product.
What's the difference between gazumping and gazundering, Shona? Can you explain?
Gazumping is when someone comes in with a higher offer after your offer has been accepted. Gazundering is when someone comes in with a lower offer, but potentially a better position for the seller. So they're either higher or lower, but gazundering is apparently quite prolific.
Seems to be. So chatting market in general here, Andy's asked a question. Hello guys, what do you think the market will do in the last quarter of this year? So October, November, December, what's our expectations for the market? And just to put some context spin on that, Rightmove suggested that in September, house prices went up 0.4%, nearly 0.5%. And that's based on asking prices, and I don't agree with it. And I'll tell you why afterwards. But just to put some context on it, that's what Rightmove said happened. So what do you reckon, Matt? What are we thinking? You've got your listening face on there. What do you reckon?
I think there's not going to be any fireworks at the end of this year. Nothing crazy is going to happen. But I think inflation is going to come under control even more. I think that's going to bring mortgage rates down ever so slightly. And I think that's going to give the buyers who are sitting on the fence the green light to go ahead and do something. I think for me, there's been a bit of a period over the last couple of months where people aren't sure if what's going to happen with rates, what's going to happen with prices. I think the bottom of the market has been and gone. And I think the next few months is all just about people realizing that actually the market's going to pick back up next year.
Ryan, what's your thoughts?
I think we've spoken about it on a previous chat, but the market, actually, sorry, I was on the podcast. We spoke about it. Apologies. The market's returned to its normal state pre-COVID. So this was the first summer holidays that were quiet, like July, August, typically quite quiet. We haven't had that for the last 2 years. So I think we've returned to that normal market. Basically what that means, there will be less properties coming on the market, but the people that go on the market will be highly motivated. And the same with buyers. Gets to December, the best buyers are out in December because you don't want to be traipsing around houses at 4:30 when it's pitch black outside, it's raining, there's traffic. You could be sat at home with a beer. But if you're out viewing houses or properties, you are committed to purchase. So think similar to Matt, we're not going to see a huge rise in prices. It's not going to drop. It's just going to be stable for the remainder of the year with motivated sellers, motivated buyers, but less transactions happening.
Yeah, less transactions is, I guess, the key factual thing that we can say, really, because we did a lot of reporting when the stamp duty sort of change and holiday was in place, Shona, and we said, you know, and they were basically everyone was saving 15 grand and all the families were moving, everyone was upsizing quicker than they'd anticipated it. And what we could see is there was people that had planned to maybe move in 3 or 4 years' time decided they were going to move now because they were like, wow, let's save on this 15 grand. I think maybe even Ryan, you and Lauren might have been one of them.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Quite a few people did exactly that, and loads. And what we basically said was, as soon as that runs out, in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, it's going to be a massive deficit of those people that would have done that move. Maybe Ryan would be doing that move now rather than doing that move 2 years ago. And that's what we're seeing now, is we're seeing less transactions, but actually in a sort of roundabout way with the interest rates, having less people moving and more quality, it's actually kind of almost kept the housing market quite calm, I would say. And it almost feels a bit normal, doesn't it, Shona? To not normal for the last 3 or 4 years, but normal in when you go back 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. It feels a bit more like that.
Very much. I mean, as you know, I've been doing this over 20 years, so I've seen quite a few different markets, and that was the last few years have just almost been mind-blowing in how different they have been. And I'm very much in agreement that it is much more of a normal market now, and you're seeing the more seasonal changes. It's nice to think that we will see more stability and less of the like craziness of people like jumping over each other to get properties, and like you say, more quality. Like you feel a bit more, I say satisfied, but it's nicer when you're making a nice match between two properties and not having to have loads of people fighting over it, and you know the sellers there going which one. It's just a lot calmer, like you say.
It was quite stressful for everyone, actually, wasn't it? You know, conveyancers were crying on the phone to me, and then buyers were crying on the phone to me. Sellers didn't know what decisions to make. Mortgage advisors were basically on do not disturb. It was just crazy. It was a crazy time. So it's nice to feel it a little bit calmer. Dan and Neil are checking in. Hello, chaps. They've asked on the reservation conversation we're having a couple of minutes ago. Is there any real risk to a reservation fee? And certainly with chain building, it's a current no-brainer. But is there any real risk to the reservation fee? What do you think, Matt?
I don't think so. I think the only risk is that there is no downside. If you're serious about committing on the house and going forward, there's no downside.
Yeah. The T's and C's are agreed prior. So if you've got an outside of the box reason, as long as it's, you know, pre-agreed and it's logical, it can be added in. But I don't really see any downside unless you're a buyer that's thinking that maybe you're not committed, Ryan, really, from my point of view. What do you think?
Exactly that. And you know, if buyers turn around and say, I'm not comfortable doing one, well, if you haven't explained it properly, that's one side of things, and you just explain it again. If they're still not happy with doing it, you got to question commitment from the start. Like buying a house for the sake of £300-400 to put down, it's going to secure the property. There is no downside. You're showing commitment. You're securing the property you want. Where's the downside? There is none.
No. I think that's fair. I think we've wrapped that up on the reservation. It's a good thing. If you want to know more about reservations, you want to know how they work, if you're thinking of using an estate agent, we're the appointed local agent. So if you want to use an agent that offers reservations that are approved via the Law Society, they're solicitor approved. These are not just kind of tin pot pieces of paper that we got from WH Smith's. They're actually Law Society approved via a third party company, and we can set up that conversation. But get one of your Avocado agents out and they can explain it more, and we can talk you through all the T's and C's for it as well. Neil's just jumped in as well. He said, is cash still king in this market? I mean, is a cash buyer the best buyer out there? You know, I said previously cash buyers weren't king anymore because we needed the flexible buyer when everything was pandemonium crazy. But then the market's twisted, and I think, you know, if you've got a cash buyer on the table with a reservation agreement, you're winning, I would say. Are we all hands up on that, or any thoughts?
I think cash is always good. I don't know about you guys. I'm not having any trouble really with mortgages.
I was about to say exactly that. What I'm finding at the moment with buyers, and I don't know if you guys agree on this as well, every single buyer that makes an offer, normally you put them in touch with your financial advisor or they send their agreement of principle. They are so clued up with what's happening. I think because we talk about the bad negative of the media talking about prices crashing and rates going up, but what it has installed in buyers is to make sure they know their numbers. And I've got buyers that have spoken to 2 or 3 financial advisors. They've got AIPs coming out their ears, which, okay, they're not necessarily worth the paper they're written on, but they know what they're looking at. And as long as it goes forward, the amount of desktop valuation, I think my last 3 sales, and these are all like some of just 90% loan to value, desktop values. Haven't even gone out to see it, which I thought I heard surveyors were supposed to be down valuing properties, but they're just desktoping a tick box exercise at the moment.
I met with a surveyor recently and a couple of months ago, and he basically said, I won't say who he works for but it's one of the big 4 that do, a lot of the mortgage surveys. And he said, there's just none of them. They just don't have them. The surveyors they're not there. There's no new ones coming through. It's not like a sexy job that people are thinking, yeah, I'm going to leave school and be a surveyor. It's just not a thing. So as a result, they're stretched so thin. And now the desktop valuations are so good and fine tuned that, they might have 2 surveyors covering a massive territory that used to have 9 or 10 surveyors covering it. So I think that's probably part of that reason is tech has advanced and there's less people on the ground. So probably makes sense when you look at it.
They have access to a lot more up-to-date information than even we can get onto as well. Yeah. So like the desktop side, they can see valuations that have happened of properties that have just gone under offer with other agents, which obviously we can try and find out what those figures are, but whether or not it's the truth or not. So they've got access to all of that behind the scenes information, which, like you say, the tech side's gone up, and I think it's much easier for them to be able to agree with a valuation.
Yeah, I think, and that will only advance as well. It may become that, unless it's a real niche property like a quirky farm or barn or something like that's had a crazy extension done on it, I think it's probably going to become more and more likely. Christmas, let's throw it out there. It's October, it's nearly Halloween. After Halloween, it's Christmas, isn't it? I think that's what happens. So fireworks, and then Christmas. We buy advent calendars, we eat chocolate, we get fat. So Christmas tips for buyers. Ryan, you've had to give out a few this week. Matt's turned his lights out. He's like, no, I'm out. It's Christmas. See ya.
Yeah, I've got twofold on this topic. It's kind of one, I suppose, not necessarily direct to Christmas, but advice for sellers, and then what to do with your Christmas transaction at the moment. So advice from sellers. I've had my last 2 transactions. Both want to complete before Christmas. Sales agreed. One was agreed last week. It's a leasehold. It ain't going through in 9 to 10 weeks, potentially. The point on that is when you go to the market, if you instruct your solicitor from day one, there's a lot of paperwork you need to fill in. There's a good couple of hours of work you need to go through. If you wait till a sales agreed and then instruct your solicitor, it's a couple of days to get the paperwork out, get it all filled out, sent back. Then they've got to go through it, issue draft contracts. By the time it gets to the buyer solicitor, you've lost 2 or 3 weeks, on a good day. So top tip for sellers at any point, it's become apparent at this time of year, but when you go to market, you've got loads of viewings booked in, get yourself solicitor instructed from day one, because it's going to save you time. It's going to cut 2 or 3 weeks of your transaction time at the end of the process. Point 2, very quickly, if your sale is going through at the moment, make sure you are constantly in contact with your solicitor and keeping everyone moving along. You want to be aiming as much as you can for an end of November at completion, because as soon as it gets into December, everything's on the table there. Solicitors go off for a couple of weeks. There's holidays. There's every chance it can fall into January. So you just got to push and make sure you're contacting your solicitors 2, maybe 3 times a week if you can. That's my advice on that section.
Yeah, top advice. And I think we were talking about reservation agreements as well. And if you decide you're going to go to the market and it's something that you want a buyer to use to buy your property, then there's quite a lot of the legwork. I know, for example, you can do the TL10, I think it is. So there's a couple of different forms that you can actually get done if you're going to use a reservation agreement as a seller prior to finding a buyer, and that will shave the best part of 2 or 3 weeks off, I would have thought, Matt, won't it?
Yeah, if you have those ready to go, it's just like the fixtures and fittings form and the property information form, they call it. They're really boring, just basic details about the house, but you have to do them as a seller. So why not do them whilst the agent is marketing the property? So then as soon as you've got that buyer, you're good to go. And it also means that as soon as the offer's agreed, the ball's straight in the buyer's court. The buyer doesn't agree the sale and then wait around for a couple of weeks while the seller does their bits. The ball's immediately in the buyer's court for them to action. So I think that's key.
Yeah. What would be your top 2 tips, Shona, for people that want to move before Christmas outside of what we've already discussed?
One would be on the leasehold properties is to get your leasehold pack ordered, because you're relying on another third party to get information pulled together and sent across. We'll put a point on that is do check in with your agent before you go ahead and do it, because there are reasons why it might not work for you, but it's definitely something you should be asking the question about. So that's a leasehold pack. Second tip, that's a tough one because you've done the solicitors, you've done movers, getting in contact with the removal companies, because they are going to book up quickly, because again they take themselves off for a couple of weeks over the Christmas break. And if everyone's trying to get moved in those couple of weeks before everyone disappears, they're going to get booked up fast. So making contact early is probably quite key to making sure you do get your move agreed.
Yeah, removal vans can be really tough actually in December. Matt?
I've got another one. Have a contingency plan, because if you're starting to move now, you're probably not going to be moved by Christmas. So have a contingency.
And give yourself the best chance by reducing the amount of people involved in the transaction, I would say. So that will help massively. Know your broker, know your solicitor. If you work with Avocado, you're going to have your agent from start to finish. Obviously, if you go down the high street model, there might be a few more cooks in the kitchen, a few more departments to speak to, but try and keep the amount of people that are involved down to a minimum. Have a really strong setup, a strong team. You don't want to talk to a broker that's going to pass you on to another administrator. You don't want to talk to a solicitor that's going to put you in contact with a team where you're going to have 5 or 6 different people. You don't want to talk to an estate agent that's going to pass you to a negotiator, to a manager, to an administrator, back to them, back around. Try and keep it low volume on the contacts, I would say, and that will definitely help the process as well. And hopefully they can work together in unison then as well, which would be great. Last thing of the evening, have we got any little bits and bobs that we want to share, or one property maybe that's coming live soon that's not on Rightmove or Zoopla? Any little kind of teasers that anyone wants to talk about? Ladies first, Shona, anything on the bubble over the next sort of month or so?
I do have another shared ownership 1-bedroom. So having got 2 away, I did actually sell that without even having beat the portals. I got that straight out. So I've got another 1-bed coming up, slightly different location, but still within Binfield. I've got a 3-bed house that's probably looking more towards the end of the month. That is lovely. It's got some really nice quirky features. So I'm looking forward to that one coming out.
Nice, couple of bits bubbling there. I went in, when we kicked off, there's a particular block in Warfield and people struggled to get them away for some reason, but I got one straight away and then I ended up getting another 2 straight off the back of that. So it does happen. Yeah, 4, there you go. Boom.
4.
Matt, what about Matt and Matt? Well, Matt is away. What is Matt bubbling with?
So we've been working this week on a video which is going out in a couple of days for our listing on Forest Road in Wokingham, which is 3 acres of land, 3,000 square foot of property, 1.25 million. It's incredible. So keep an eye out for that video. Really, really cool property. So got that coming up in a couple of days.
3 acres of land, eh?
3 acres. And it's nice because 2 acres of it has got a wall wrapped around the whole perimeter. So it's completely shut off from the world. It's great.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Check out the socials for that video, because I would imagine some drone footage took place on that one, right?
You could not do drone footage. Trouble is, get the drone high enough to get all of it in. It's so much land.
Looking forward to that.
Isn't it?
That temporarily breaks some aviation rules, but there we go.
We'll do anything for our clients. That's the rules. Ryan, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think I said at the start, I've got a few listings. Lauren and I got a couple of things coming on the next few days. One of the ones we're most excited about, though, earlier in the call, I mentioned about the property that sold in September with 18 viewings and 9 offers. I've got another house very similar to that coming on the market in the same area of Calcott. It's a 3-bed semi, double driveway, garage. It's got a big outhouse in the back garden, potential to extend for sub 400,000, and it's in brilliant condition as well. So photos and beat the portals will be done on that one on Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that. And then there'll probably be starting viewings from, I would say, a week Saturday on that one, potentially.
What a buy that is for someone. So many features for under 400 grand, don't get too many of those around here.
Absolutely not. A great location as well. So, we're really excited about that one. Bear in mind how much interest we've got in the other one. I've got 17 buyers already to view. So, watch this space.
Happy days. Well, a professional, valuable, educational and enjoyable live chat with Shona, Matt and Ryan. We'll be back next Thursday, 6 p.m. as always. If you are watching this, we're not live. Still put your questions in. Don't forget to visit the website, avocadopropertyagents.co.uk. And thanks to everyone that commented and joined us on the live show. Cheers, everyone. See you soon.